righty. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Julie.
I know. Good morning. So many things pop in my head now. It's ridiculous. I'm so excited to have Scott here on a couple levels.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna introduce him, Scott Fisher. Scott is from Arizona. Scott is doing and has done, and just the Resource Connectors website, I went into a total rabbit hole with that. So, and I'm so excited because I learned so much. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you take it away, Scott.
Well, Julie, it's good afternoon here. It's 12:30. So if you're east of California, good afternoon. Thanks for having me in, and I'm always thrilled to talk about expanding our interests and working more closely with the aging population, particularly those who might find themselves personally in this space. If you're 45 to 65 and you've got someone in your life that you love, a parent or an aunt and uncle, even a grandparent that's aging, the road through that can be really rocky. And I am personally living it with my mother. I'm personally living it with my in-laws. And after 20 plus years, specifically in the space of caring for people in this journey, plus the other 20 years from my healthcare experience prior to this, I feel like I'm as prepared as anybody. And some days I just want to go, what the heck don't I know? And when somebody like a mom, or something, so it becomes a real challenge. And so it draws my heart into working with professionals that find themselves also drawn into want to working in these spaces. And I think it's fascinating, Julie, that more professionals than ever, obviously by handling real estate, we can see the writing on the wall. We know that people are aging and that real estate transactions are going to increase over time, and real estate and wealth is going to transfer to next generations or need to be sold. And so high caliber, high quality professionals are going to be needed to work with those families that are grieving and struggling, and they're in transition. And there's a lot of things that can be into that. And I can just imagine kids having to step in and sell mom's house, the very house they grew up in, and they're selling the family home 50 years later and things like that. So additionally, as more professionals migrate towards caring for families in the journey, there are multiple business opportunities that present themselves for people that have a heart for those families. And so that's where one of my energies comes in. I started a business back in 2003 called Options for Senior Living, which was my attempt to create what we would call a placement agency or a referral and placement agency. I never liked the word placement very much. It indicated that I was doing something to somebody, and I didn't like the connotation for that. But for lack of a better word, most people understand that there's an industry now that exists that helps guide families through some kind of a process and helps them locate and find the right senior living community provider at the end of the day, where mom, dad, grandma, grandpa would go spend the next season or the end of their life at. And so since 2003, I've been working in that space, and we've helped well over 4,000 families complete that journey. And we've probably helped another, at least that, answer questions, provide resources, give them guidance. But that's what we do as an aging specialist. You step into the space of helping people kind of move through this season for them and their family. And many families have needed me twice, 3 times. You meet families and they have multiple sets of family members that need help. And so Options for Senior Living has persisted over this time. the reality of it, you guys, is that industry is completely unlicensed and highly unregulated. So in California, no regulation. Arizona, we have a couple of little things. Washington and Oregon, yes. Oklahoma, there's spotty legislative efforts over the years, but for the most part, there's no barrier to entry. Um, the opportunity is wide open, but it also, because it's the Wild West, it's the Wild West, and there's knuckleheads and outlaws and bandits, and there are all kinds of people that work in this space because they can, and people are vulnerable, and there's some money to be made. So anything that's attractive and good that way, of course, draws great people in, and it also attracts some shady players or unethical groups and things like that. I got involved back in 2009 and 2010 in an advocacy effort to bring best practices and code of ethics to our industry, since there was no opportunity really to pursue licensure and there was no stomach in the state of Arizona for that. We pursued the next path, and that was to create a trade association to establish and define what best practices were. So we looked at a lot of the behaviors that people were concerned about as it related to us, and we formed that association and outlined those best practices. That group grew from 4 of us in a coffee shop to a couple hundred. And after some conferences and some growth, there was enough momentum from that I was willing to step into an effort at that point where some other factors were happening, and the National Placement and Referral Alliance was formed. The NPRA is the national trade group for now placement nationally. And that first group we started in Phoenix was the first chapter of the NPRA. In 2018 and 19, as part of my work with the NPRA, we started running around and setting up new chapters in various cities. And Dallas got one, Sacramento got one, Denver got one, a couple more in California, Tucson. And then the pandemic derailed that effort. But the NPRA today, I stepped off the board, but the NPRA today continues to promote and educate the community on best practices, attract agents from across the country. And even though there may not be chapters in all these cities, we have more cities that do have chapters, and we have national membership spread from coast to coast. So I'm really, really proud of that. But as the industry is taking shape and the United States continues to age, there's going to be a massive need for more highly qualified, compassionate professionals to get into this placement side of things and help guide those families successfully through that aspect of the aging journey. And so through my effort, I started to establish kind of a practice and a sequence of processes that I started to write down back in 2000 during the middle of the pandemic. I went to a log cabin and started writing all this down. And out of that came what I call today the Options University Boot Camp. And the boot camp is a 16-hour, 8-module program designed to take anybody through it and give them the basis and the foundation for creating a placement agency of their own to complement the real estate business, to be a part of whatever other business offerings they want to establish for themselves, because the opportunity and the need is there. And so I believe firmly that if one were to lay their placement agency next to their real estate business, one would attract business for the other, one would attract business for the other. Each of them would equally feed each other. And a lot of the work in terms of the marketing and outreach and networking that we do kind of naturally in our business development would be co-applied and can be co-applied. And so as I hear from realtors around the country tell me that they're looking for another income stream, they're looking for a way to get into this market, this is a viable way to learn some essential basic skills about the industry and expand your voice to attract families that potentially are in transition. it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to work with aging people and all the details that go into that. You almost have to have a heart as a social worker some days. But for those that do, it can be incredibly rewarding and super profitable to have a second income or a second business next to your primary real estate business. I saw Lisa Dumont on here, and Lisa and I got to know each other in the last few months or so. And she's in the middle of taking that course. We're 3 out of 4 sessions in. Our last one is this Friday. And as I understood what Lisa and her husband were wanting for their business and their community, and we've talked about how her energy and interest is to become a real advocate and a spokesperson for aging in her community. This gives you, at least if I get this right, get you the tools to have multiple businesses or multiple income streams that you and your husband can work on together.
Absolutely. That is very true. My husband is planning on retiring from his W-2 job in about 5 years, and we're gearing this business up to be able to do this for as long as we decide we want to work. And I definitely see the value and the opportunity in the placement business. And it's what 80 to 90% of placements also come with real estate attached. So it just is a nice natural segue into other ways that we can help our seniors.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we've gotten to know each other a little bit. And I know that this is the beginning of a relationship that will go on. We're looking at some long-term plugins so that more coaching can be done, more advocacy. There's a lot of folks that want to get into this space, and yet they haven't had that clinical background yet. And I don't want people to shy away, because some of the very best people I know in the placement side of things, you guys, are have no clinical background. I happen to. That's my story. In the 80s, I went to nursing school, but man, I know dozens and dozens and dozens of people that love folks, love what they do, care for what they do. They can get the training, you get the certifications, get programs like this that will support. And a lot of it is just through experience, you'll acquire more and more confidence in working with people or talking to them about things that have to do with the aging process. Julie, I don't know if you have the ability to or not, but if I could send a request to share a screen, I've got somebody that Lori's asked me to have a syllabus so we can see what we're offering. Yeah, I've got an 8 module slideshow here. I'm going to go through for you.
Yeah, I made you co-host.
All right, cool. Let me grab it. It's the process. I had a bunch of this open for Lisa. I find the right one. So here is the 8 modules that we talk about. The overview is for placement referral specialists to offer you a cost-effective specialized support program. And let me just address something real quick before I roll through this. Over my course of my travels, a lot of people have entered this space, you guys, and they've been led to believe that by buying a franchise into this space, that they would have a brand and a business that would have a leg up on someone independently like myself. Right now, most of the major franchisors are still selling franchises in various spaces. People that I've talked to looking at some of the major brands, assisted living locators, Care Patrol, are sold out in major cities. They can't get into where they live. They're offered opportunities in other places. If you buy a franchise right now, the basic franchise fees are basically 50 to 70 grand. And then you add in first year expenses, might be up over $100,000 to buy a franchise. If you want to buy somebody's existing Care Patrol or assisted living locators franchise, you're likely going to spend a couple $100,000 to. I know a guy that just sold his for maybe close to $1 million. So that's a huge investment for most folks. And so my intention is to make this super affordable so that people can get the basics that they need and get into the business and help them with their coaching and guidance and where to get your support at a fraction of the cost. Where maybe first year, as I was outlining this with Lisa, first year with your insurance, your data management, programming and training with me, you might be in for 10 altogether or something, which is a way far cry from getting way down the road. So for those of you that are starting to do business, I start the story kind of where I started with you guys, kind of a history of the industry, but I go through and talk about various perspectives of the industry. If you can imagine, a lot of people.
We definitely have a lot of guidelines in our house. So if you're thinking about even a smartwatch or a foot,
Everybody hit your mute button. There you go. No.
When you jump into this space, you'll realize that not everybody thinks we're awesome, or there's history with people that don't think that the people that are in this business were awesome. And so I want to share a historical perspective so that you could understand the humility and the gratitude that I have for where we have come to, because I remember the days when I would walk into places and you were basically referred to or looked at or called in our local news publications, body brokers and bounty hunters. And so we've come a long way in 20 years, and I'd like to continue to see the professionalization of the industry. So we talk about all that, certifications and various trainings, and then I start to break down what are we going to cover. And this is your intake and developing a provider inventory and understanding risk, liability, and some of the operational behind the scenes things that are needed. Very superficial stuff in that first, as we get into operations, module 8 comes back around and digs much deeper into the operational side of the business. With any business, there's a new language to learn. So in terms of learning the alphabet soup and the ABCs and the differences between home health, home care, there's some similar terminology. Lisa and I were just talking like, oh my gosh, this is like, it is like learning Spanish, sort of, in some regards. So we literally take the time, like I did when I went to nursing school in 1985. They put me down in the class and we had to learn all this Latin and medical terminology because that's what they spoke in the hospitals. And that's what I try to do with you here, is to just make it easy and comprehensive, understanding the jargon and the alphabet soup that's senior living. For a lot of folks, because you're not clinical, haven't had any clinical experiences, there's a certain discomfort in asking people a lot of personal questions. And when you sit down and do an intake or a discovery with somebody, we often have to talk to them about their life situations, and that's not too bad. But when they start telling you about their dementia, or they tell you that they're incontinent and they have to wear, protective underwear, or they've had falls and they're ashamed about that their health is failing, there's some things in there that we have to talk about and understand that how we gather that information, how we collect it, how we document it, and help you with your comfort level around some of that and talk about it, because not everybody's comfortable. But really, from the point of how you acquire your information and what you acquire, really sets you on the right path to making a successful guidance for them to the right placement at the end. So we talk about establishing priorities, letting the families determine their timeframes, and then mutually agreeing to those timeframes so that things stay on a track. That intake really sets up the rest of everything. We take a pause at module 4 then to talk about, because part of your intake is some financial discovery. What's your income? What's your Social Security? Do you have any other assets? And you start thinking about, wow, it's going to cost $7,000 a month for assisted living, and they only make $2,500. How are they going to pay for this? Well, what's the equity in the home? Where's their other assets, and what could be liquidated, or how are we going to fund this? And so we talk about variable and different viable options on how to pay for care. We call it Arizona Long-Term Care, or Altex here in Arizona, but that's our state Medicaid program. In California, you call it Medi-Cal, but in other states, they have different names for that. But how do you apply and who's qualifies and what are the qualifiers for Medicaid? How do you get it? What VA benefits are you talking about? And there's an aid and attendant program that we get into. There's long-term private long-term care insurance policies. People can use the equity in their house and either a reverse mortgage, HECM. They can use a HELOC and turn it, potentially grab some equity out, fund their transition, get some work done on the house, and maybe turn their house into a rental or an income generating property. We talk about a variety of things. There's new insurance products that allow people to use some of the portfolio to protect their overall asset package. There's a lot of things in here that maybe the average person or professional wouldn't be aware of. So we take a diversion here and spend some time digging into that. And then we get back to it, and we call building your inventory the ongoing, never-ending process of learning the senior living and continuing to relearn your senior living providers in the market that you're going to serve. I serve an area of Maricopa County in Phoenix, Arizona, that's 120 miles wide and 60 or 70 miles north. It's a big rectangle. And there's over 2,000 licensed senior living addresses in our state, just not in our state, just in my county. So I know hundreds and hundreds and have hundreds of contracts with these places, but there's no way to know that I know them all, and there's no way to see them on a regular basis. So of course, as you know more, you'll narrow that down and work with those operators, but continuously it's a process of building and revisiting. My good friend Jackie Clark over in San Diego, who's a referral agent, she equates it to this a lot of times, is that when you find a restaurant you absolutely love and you go and have the best meal of your life, and you go back in 6 months or a year and it's not the same, and the chef's changed and the service is different. Well, senior living is the same way. Leadership and those key individuals change company. They move from job to job. Things happen internally with ownership, and so you have to routinely see them. And I'm attracted obviously to stable leadership, and I use that as a factor when I'm determining where I'm going. A lot of times it has to do with the stable leadership inside a building. So we talk about how to know your product, key things to look for. We have some check sheets and some key things we talk about in terms of finding those special niches and nuances that are in senior living provider network, so that when you sit down and meet with a family for the first time and the second time, the solutions are coming to you because you know your inventory so well. Somebody asked me not too long ago, do I go do my research and build my inventory before I need it, or do I wait till I have a client that needs something? And I'm an advocate for going out and knowing your marketplace, and you systematically build that into your work life so that you're visiting a few places a week or whatever, just as a norm, so that you're always looking and meeting and developing that inventory, because that's a huge part of your success. The next category or the next module is what I call the process, and that's taking your intake, matching it to your inventory, and then working with families through it. If you've had some experience working with families, I wish I could say every family was healthy and they communicated well and nobody's got resentments or old baggage. But I got to tell you, it feels like there's more people that are like my family, where there's been divorce and somebody was an alcoholic, and you have brothers and sisters that might not be on the same page. And so you really get into some things with people. And so I share that. I share experiences, because families that have been divorced and remarried, and you blended, you get two sets of kids involved, different agendas. You have older brothers and younger sisters, often telling the younger sisters to suck it up and take care of mom and protect the money. And so we have to address that. And then you have some beautiful situations and I've been a part of those too, where the kids really come together and they love their mother, they love their father dearly, and you get to be part of a blessed moment. And I've had lots of those where you really help them get to a new piece in their family and a new season. And so there's a lot to deal with inside the process, and we talk about all of that and how to bring that whole thing in. I call it in for a landing. People come to us because we're experts, because they assume that we know what we're doing. And so it can get with some families boggy that they don't want to make decisions. And I think there's an artistry to helping families through this. And over time, you learn that artistry to help them and trust yourself, bring them into the right situation. Marketing your business through the business lanes is module 7. This is largely a B2B approach, but we are engaged in some B2C work. And literally, as we're talking today, tapping into more ideas so that agents can become that trusted voice in your community, where lots of people would be interested in what you're doing, creating engagement amongst other adult children. Because you guys, over the last 22 years now, more than 80% of my clients are the adult kids. It's not the seniors. They call me, but it's largely the adult kids who are responding to a decline in their parents or challenges in their healthcare and such like that. So where to find those adult kids, how to get to those people through their other professional network.
Industry platform for data for distressed real estate.
If somebody could
hit on this training is I'm going to show you how to find deals. We're going to talk about searching, increasing market comps, and more using PropWire.
Everybody hit your
third
mute
thing that we're
button.
going to do on this training is I'm going to show you how to get personal help to customize your experience with PropWire to help you get that next deal. And then finally, at the end, we're going to do some
mute
Q&A.
everybody for
So who
us,
is this
Julie.
training for? If you're a brand new real estate investor and you're working on your first deal, you're in the right spot. We're going to show you how to use PropWire to help you get that first deal.
The co-host
And if you're an experienced real estate investor and you're looking to scale your business and do multiple deals, we're going to show you.
You got it?
Yep.
All right. Largely the business lanes that we talk about, many of them would be also equally as profitable for your real estate side of your business. So this is where we get to review, where do you go now currently for your business? Here's some other ideas. Here's how to create the interest or the involvement of other businesses, how to create those clusters of like-minded business owners that feed each other in a circle. I have a number of those in my life, and we're always looking to grow and expand those so that our influence is more than just ourselves. How to exponentially grow your reach is a big deal. So we spend quite a bit of time. Lisa and I are going to do this Friday, and cover this content on Friday. And then finally, as I said, we come back around the circle, module 8, digging in a little deeper to the mastering the operations. As educators, advocates, and experts in the resources of our community, we have to take all this great work we do with families and run a business. So we have to have the right insurances. We have to invoice and collect, and we have to understand what those contracts are and what are the provisions in the contracts. And in the package, Julie, everybody that participates gets all of the slides. You get an appendix with a workbook in it that you can print and work through these things with. And then there's an appendix of a couple of dozen forms, including contracts, disclosures that people can use. I want to say it's a roadmap to apply everything we're doing so that you can use it in your own business and bring a business to life. There's one more angle to this that I think would be super helpful, and I'm working this in for Lisa is a first time test drive of this on Friday as well. And that is, a dear friend of mine here in Phoenix lost her husband to Alzheimer's disease. He was diagnosed in his 50s. And if you didn't know, you're going to find out that more early onset dementia is being diagnosed than ever. And so when Susan lost her husband, Dave, in Susan's grief, she felt convicted in her spirit that it was her mission now to stand in the gap with other families who were suffering and feeling the same thing she felt. And so she's done coaching, counseling, guidance for families for the last few years, creating workshops, support groups. As a matter of fact, I'm partnering with her, and her and I are going to launch an all men support group coming up, men whose wives have been affected. It's a faith-based group, but my point is that she also teaches these caregivers things to know from a caregiver's perspective on what you need to know about senior living. And I think it's awesome and a fabulous perspective to build into what we're doing here so that all of us as professionals can hear with clarity what's important to them. It's not so much me telling them what's important, although that's part of it, but to be able to listen to, anticipate, and know what a caregiver's thinking and to speak about that stuff with some confidence. I think Susan's perspective will be really rich. So we're test driving that. So there may be a ninth module based on how this goes with Lisa on Friday. So pressure's on, Lisa. I hope this is good. I know it will be. Susan's got a heart for people, and she wants anybody that's entering this space to be sensitive to what real grief and real concern for a loved one feels like when you have to let them go. For any of us that have ever experienced loss or had grief in our life, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one. We get to reaccess that at times so that we get how it feels for these folks, because you got to realize husbands and wives have been together 40, 50, 60 years. They've never slept apart in 55 years. And men will be terrified to let their wife go. Terrified, where they'll stay in it longer to their detriment because they're afraid, or they don't know that there's another side to this. And even though there's lots of examples of successful transition, those are things that we get to walk these guys through, or these women through, when it comes to placing their husbands or children having to serve as decision maker for a parent that they love dearly. So like I said, this is not for everyone, but for those of you that have a heart for this and see the opportunity, I'm not exaggerating. It's a six-figure income waiting to happen for people that wish to do this and wish to do it well. If without the heart, it'll be it won't be a sustainable business, because nothing is. But when you have that energy and heart, perspective, care for people, those families will tell others. Those business professionals and such that have referred to you will refer more, and you can start whipping up quite a self-feeding cycle of business for yourself over the next several months. So we're offering this as an individual package for people. We're saving some money and packaging up. I'm putting together a group right now, probably in the first or second week of December, maybe having a half a dozen people at one. The individual package is $3,000. The packaged program, $100. I am making some payment arrangements and things for folks where we need to. We take credit cards. It's not. It's the business side of what I have to do, and I have to tell you all that. But to significantly create a new income stream with some help in the next few months, and in next year 2025, really add a new business alongside your current business offering. So that's the package in a nutshell. Any questions? Or Julie, you have any thoughts, anything you want to add? What excited you? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Scott, hi, this is Valerie. I'm here with Julie in San Jose.
So my question is this a pre-recorded package or is this you're collecting a group of people and training live?
Live. You'll find some pre-recorded packages out there. This is live.
Mhm.
This is time with me, talking through and providing everybody the same experience Lisa's getting individually right now.
So is this once a week for 8 weeks or what's the schedule?
Lisa and I chose to do 4 hour blocks. I've done 2 hour blocks 8 times.
Mhm.
I've done it with individuals thus far as I have been preparing this, so I'm comfortable going anyway. There was a gentleman over in the as part of the testing of this. He was a neuropsychologist. He's in Walnut. Is it Walnut Creek?
Yeah,
Walnut
Creek.
Walnut Creek.
Mhm.
And he was a neuropsychologist that found me a couple of years ago. And Eric and I did like 8 2 hour blocks because as a physician, his time is very limited. So we had to work around that. It worked fine. So
Mhm.
I'm totally flexible to creating something that works for the masses or for the individual.
So if you did 8 2-hour blocks, is that twice a week, once a week? What's the duration?
It I think with Eric, we did it like twice a week for 4 weeks.
Mhm.
So I don't have a set schedule to fit people into right now. I'm customizing it based on the request and the need.
Mhm. So your next group is in December, and then after that, when would you think the following one would start?
I would love to do 2 groups in December. I think there's enough time, and I think in my world, um, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, families are seeing each other for the first time in a year. They're getting awarenesses that oh, maybe mom's not what she was last year. So we tend to pick up the pace in January, February again.
Mhm.
So if I could create a couple of classes and offer times, or if a group of you wanted to get together and do it together, we can just make the time. I run the options business here. Back in the COVID, I also started the connectors business, Julie, and that's a second business that we developed to do a better job of reaching the adult kids and speak directly to the consumers. So there's about 40 companies that are all part of a new ecosystem that feed each other, as well as we do marketing to the general public. So we're pretty flexible with my time. All in all, is what I want to tell you, that we can make anything really happen.
How many total hours is the training?
14 to 16.
Okay, 14. And let me ask you a question. When you're talking with all these people, how do you keep everybody straight and all the information? How do you track that in Excel, or how does that work?
Um,
You mean the
the
family?
the families that you're talking about.
Yeah, where you take
Oh,
them and all
okay.
that.
Yeah. So as part of your introduction to the operations, I for years kept all that on legal pads, and that was a mess. I have about 15 years worth of legal pads. In 2017, 18, I met a guy by the name of Jason Buckingham, and Buckingham put together the first that I saw database for senior living, senior placement specialists called Senior. It's called Senior Place, and it's a CRM that you could manage your referral sources, your families, and all of your senior living communities. He pre-populates it with the communities for the market that you want to work with. You customize the data and the information, but your program with him comes pre-populated and allows you to see all the communities. It maps it for you, and it's really a very helpful tool. Lisa, have you done a demo with Jason yet? You're going to meet him Friday morning. And he was in Wichita, of course, but he's going to join us for a few minutes Friday morning too.
I have not scheduled a demo with him yet. No, I figured I'd do that when he and I were on the phone on Friday.
Okay. All right, cool. He schedules free demos, you guys, all the time with folks that start it. It's been a huge addition to my business. It wasn't anything I wanted to spend the money on initially, but now I can't imagine trying to manage all this without it.
Oh, so what does that cost wise look like?
I think it's I for me, with the team that I have, it's running me about $500 a month. I think it's a couple $100 for an individual. I think. Don't I think I've got like 7 of us on my team doing it, so my costs are different.
Got it, thanks.
I can imagine a CRM for this specific application. We might find that they would have, like he has a team or something, and that they probably have opportunities for associations to sign up and have their own package, right? Like we do in the real estate business with CRMs. They probably do the same thing. Can you talk a little bit about insurance, the kind of insurance that you would obtain for
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
So 15 years ago, there was no product that even was specific for our industry, and you can wonder what insurance or what risk are here, and here's what they are, and I'll tell you, and I get into the details of it during the boot camp. I know a number of people, including myself, who have been sued because when you place in a care facility and there may be an outcome that isn't optimal, family might be upset about that. You also have families who are just looking to score, and that's true. So I've been a part of a couple of those situations. I know agents cross country, and because we've now organized our business properly by incorporating properly, by having the right contracts and the language in the contracts regarding indemnification, and then adding the proper liability insurance coverages, we've been able to successfully keep ourselves protected. In my state, I've got one more trap door that most people don't know about, and that is we have senior living operators that are corporate centers, we call them, but then we also have a number of these private residential homes that are licensed by the state, but they're 10 beds or less, and most states have some version of that now. I'd be curious to know how many states require those people to have insurance, the right insurance. And so your coverage as an agent covers anything that may happen in there if they aren't covered. Now, I have a stipulation in my contract that the homes I work with do carry their own insurance so that our families and our referring partners are protected. But it runs about $2,000 a year. I'll just be honest with you. And again, I couldn't imagine operating without.
Do you have a title? So, because my insurance guy is asking me, what is it that we do? Like, because so I can tell him so they can get a quote. Or do you have an insurance resource?
Yes. So I actually have a meeting with him in about 45 minutes. His name is Jeff Schmidt at Hub International, and he sells more insurance in this space than probably any one person in the country. He provides coverages for all the franchisors, as well as hundreds of us that are independents running around. And so part of the introduction is directly to Jeff and his girl, Amanda, who handle those applications and questions and quote those policies for people. I think I pay $125 a month or something for my coverage. It's something like that. It's around $2,000 a year to have all the right coverages for me.
Now, you mentioned when you are working with your local senior living communities and providers in your area, when you vet them, do you talk to them about their insurance company coverage? Do you get a statement of insurance from them, a certificate or something to have on hand?
Yeah. So from the group homes or the private operators, I do. In California, you would call those their 6 beds. The law requires it there, Julie. So if you want to track all that, you can. I don't ask the corporate operators because they all have it. They're all insured out to the wazoo, for everything.
Yeah.
But my biggest gap for me is the small homes that I'm concerned about. The two suits I was involved with both of the homes carried insurance, and they took the rightful first place in line to protect the situation or deal with the situation. But I learned a lot from the first time to the second time, and the things I teach are in direct relation to what I learned in that first between A and B. So
Yeah.
yeah, most learning comes from taking your lumps, and so I'm happy to share my lumps before you have to, before anybody else has to.
Yeah.
Hi, Scott. This is Valerie again in San Jose. Can you talk to us a little bit about lead gen? That's always, one of the difficult things, even as a real estate agent. What are your primary sources of clients?
So in that business lanes, if you think about it like on a whiteboard, having a vertical for attorneys, financial advisors, insurance products, home care companies, home health and hospice companies, you just see there's various verticals that are there. And so I have my number one provider, my number one referral source comes from a group called the Aging Life Care Managers. Heather's a nurse. She's a geriatric care manager. She's hired by families and private guardians and fiduciaries to manage the healthcare needs of, she's carrying something like 70 clients, 80 clients at a time. Well, each month, a couple of those need to be placed. So I handle all of her placement for her. I have a significant relationships with a number of home care companies. Those are your private duty, non-medical companies that provide caregivers to people's homes. And once they're in there, 40, 50, 70 hours a week at $40 an hour, it may become financially untenable to keep that in play. So now placement becomes a priority to them. And so I have a partnership with a handful of home care companies. They feed us. Elder law attorneys have always been a big part of my world. Elder law is a subset of estate planning attorneys that focus and specialize in these aging journey issues. And so we just met with another firm this week, and this attorney he has his own social worker to help families through the journey. Well, she needs resources. They need resources. So the law firm, financial advisor, I've been in very close quarters with one of my long-term friends who's a financial advisor. She's been in the business 40 years managing her families. Her clientele's gotten older, and a lot of those kids of those people need resources, and they fed me. Churches and faith communities are a big part of my world too. And so as I do this support group and give back, it's amazing how people find me that way. So there's just a handful of things that we're going to talk about. As you notice, I didn't mention a lot about digital and Googling and stuff like that. And in the program, we'll talk about why that is. But there is some hope, I think, for how to create or use some social media to your advantage and attract the eyeballs you want on your business. But it's in a little unconventional ways. I'm learning more about it right now, and we're going to share that with you. So, yeah, that
Thank
sort of
you.
answer. Yeah, does that help?
So, can you talk a little bit about the perspective of senior living communities, especially the larger corporate ones, and their interactions with you as a placement professional? Now, do they reach out to you? Do you reach out to them? Did you create a relationship that takes a while? It took a while. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and that's really evolved. And where years ago those companies had inside salespeople where that they took care of the touring and they scheduled the sale of the building, they also used to have a lot more community outreach folks. Well, a lot of those jobs have gone away, and it's been replaced and accepted by the paid referring partner, that's us, using those marketing dollars that they previously used and redistribute it through paying us on a regular basis. So when I show a added interest in particular building or in a community in a sales director, they really appreciate that because I'm representing them. They know that I'm trying to learn about their building, who they specialize in care for. Do they have any special niches? whatever that they want me to promote. I want to learn about that so that when I'm sitting with a family that I have something precise in my head. I'm not just thinking about solving their problem geographically. I'm thinking about solving their problem based on the right facility. So when we show as an agent an interest in learning about their building, they really embrace and appreciate that. The converse side of that is I just got a lead from one of them the other day. So now their marketing efforts are turning into business for me because stuff that comes into their world isn't always the right fit in terms of finances or behaviors or care needs. And so they need an off ramp and a safe place to go, someone they trust. And that happens to be me at times. So I've had senior living directors, sales directors refer to me for years. I just got another one last week from an executive director in town. And they have a limit to the level of care that they can provide in their building. And it's a question whether or not one of his residents with the surgery she had is going to allow her to come home, or is her care needs going to be above what they can deal with. And so if it goes above, the son and I are talking now about going out and she's in rehab now. So we're just wait, but that's going to be a really nice job if that comes around or when it comes around, because even if she goes back home, she's going to be on the line of their limit, and at some point probably going to need to move. So they could turn into referring partners when we have developed that confidence and trust and working relationship with them.
Yeah, in our market here, and maybe Katie, you can speak to this because you're already doing. The larger senior living communities in our market here do have significant sales and marketing departments in place. We do interact with them on a regular basis. So the dynamic might be a little bit different, but you mentioned, so when they can't service a family, and then I've had this conversation before with my people that I know, if you can't service a family and I've shared with you something that I might have a solution for you, I want you to call me. And so we start with those relationships. And we try to create, actually a collaborating type of situation. Do you agree, Katie?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think you can definitely do that with communities. I think it's when you have people that are no longer able to stay in the community, they're more a niche or specialized need. So you have to know that your market well enough to know that granularity.
Exactly.
Of where they can go.
And this is the thing that I think that SRES makes us special, because we will have the answer to that particular situation.
Julie, there's one of my real estate buddies too is sort of just working a very simple twist on the angle. They don't do any placement. They're just real estate team, but they really love the transition family. So they attract some families that need placement. And then they also have developed a program for senior living centers as an option to help their incoming families, if there is real estate to contend with, to be their first thought in terms of a referral for the real estate part of it. And one of my buddies, one community has given them over 20 properties to sell in the last year and a half. 20. And they simply asked the question, do you have any real estate to deal with? Because everybody knows a realtor, right? So they ask the question, do you have a realtor? Most people go, yeah, I know somebody. Yeah, but if they ask the question, do you have any real estate to deal with? That opens up the conversation where they have then the collateral. And Kevin and his team have put together a transition packet and a benefit to the community. So he does contributions to their activity funds. He gives families a discount on their fees. He provides them some assistance with moving. And he's even to get involved in this. And so for the family that needs to maybe paint the house and put new flooring in to sell the house, or maybe all their equity is tied up and they really need the equity to be able to move to senior living, but you can't sell the house if they're still in there. then they'll tap some money and maybe pull 30 grand or 40 grand aside, get the move done, get the upgrades done, get the house sold, and then they get, for a fee, get their money back at the close of escrow. And for some families in Phoenix, they've lived in the same residence for 47 years. They don't have any other money. It's all tied up in that house, but there's now $400,000 with equity in that house. So they can do it if they get an advance, and his brokerage has been able to work something like that out. But you can, he's benefited from being in this space on the real estate side quite a bit by custom asking the question and teaching them what to ask, and then providing an offering that is of value. So then families are willing to jump with Kevin and his team and not necessarily go with the realtor they had in their mind. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And then the other thing too, can you talk a little bit about how, when you do a senior placement or referral, how do you get paid for that? How do you write it up? How do you, because it's that's a separate service and separate agreement.
So in every community and every provider, and I call the senior living providers just my providers, and we put them into our inventory. So that's my language. So every provider has a contract that's pre-done, Julie, and in it has the terms for payment. And so if it's a corporate operator like Brookdale Senior Living, they actually offer those of us that are in the business a contract of theirs. Otherwise, I offer that on my paper, and you guys will get a copy of that. For those that go through the program, you'll get a copy of that, and you can use it for your purposes or customize it for your purpose. And so it outlines and says payment is due within net 30, net 45, whatever you put in there, and it has all the right definitions in it and such. And so I invoice the job. I use QuickBooks Online, and we generate an invoice in the operations segment of the program. We go through this. So you see see what it looks like, see how it operates. If you've never used QuickBooks, I never had. I mean, I was doing Word docs and legal pads until about 10 years ago. I swear it's all been a move to getting it systematized and organized. So, your QuickBooks manages your accounts receivable and your accounts payable. If you load that into it, you can run all kinds of reports on it, your profit and loss statements, your bank, your balance sheet, your cash flows. All of that can be tracked in the QuickBooks, which of course my tax accountant prefers that I have it all in there, so it makes it easy to do my tax return every year for him, or as easy as it is. So the invoicing and the accounts receivable function is all managed inside that QuickBooks. And so once I receive a check, sometimes they are mailing me and I'm manually depositing checks, old school. More and more are paying my QuickBooks Online straight from the invoice, ACH. And they can, in some cases, we even accept credit cards. And the QuickBooks has the ability to accept credit cards for a fee. So we can accommodate everybody and make it pretty simple. The small group home operators, more often than not, write me checks, but they use the payment function online as well.
So the larger properties, what do they pay? How do they pay?
Percentage wise?
The larger properties like Brookdale or Atria.
So Brookdale pays me 85% of the first month total charges. So if the rent and care together is $8,000, they get a bill for me for 85% of that, or whatever, 6,800 or whatever that comes out to be.
So they get a bill from you.
Yes, from Options for Senior Living.
Right.
And they cut a check to me. Now Brookdale's system is real. They've got a slick portal that you use, Julie, and they actually pay you electronically. They pay me the first Wednesday after 30 days has gone through, and the resident is there for 30 days. And so usually on day 33, 35, bang, that money's in my checkbook.
Yeah. And then the smaller board and care properties, so you bill them and then obviously, do you have an agreement with them?
I sure do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's in your package, there's a different agreement for the small operators as for the big operators. And again, you have to adapt this based on your market. In my market, the small operators accept the idea that they're going to pay 100% of the first month's rent. And they typically agree to pay that over 2 months. So within the first week, I pick up the first payment. 30 days later, I pick up the second payment. I submit one invoice to them for like $5,000 and it'll outline 2 payments. Here's the due dates. They can either pay it online or I'll pick up a check from them, or they can mail it. You know, you have to manage, and I talk about in the operations discussion, managing your collections. Nobody likes paying their bills. And so there is a bill collecting invoice. You know, there's a process that you're going to want
Right.
to implement so that you can successfully keep your cash flows where you want them.
Processes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
And it's not real complicated, but you know, the people that you work with, once you do it with them the second time, the third time, there's a rhythm to it. They know you're going to drop by and pick up that check, or they'll just, you know, after the person's been there a few days, boom, their check from the family's cleared. And then they execute the first payment for me in that first week. And then we touch base with them on day 30 and say, how's it all going? Make sure the second month is going to happen. Okay, fine. And then they execute second payment. And so I'll get 50 and 50 within about 35 days of the move-in.
Now, I have another question. You yourself and with the options, in your market, your area, do you have a network of realtors, senior real estate specialists that you are currently, working with?
I've had a long relationship with Kevin and his team. We have a couple others that have not been as developed. I think there's really an opportunity to work with in any vertical 2 to 4, 3 to 5 professionals per vertical, Julie. And so I haven't maximized the relationship with the other 2. And that's part of my 2025 plan is I look over my board, and it changes every year. Who's in my business lanes? How has that changed?
Right.
My CRM allows me to run reports to find out not only who have I given referrals to, but it also tells me who's given me work. So there's a lot of times you cultivate a relationship and you look back on a year and go, God dang, I gave them 5 things and I didn't see anything back. Right. So you have to shift and pivot. And so the CRM allows you to run those kinds of reports to really give yourself some truth. Sometimes you need a dose of truth. And I really like this person, but they're not feed me. I need to move on to find another more reciprocating relationship.
Definitely.
I get a question periodically, if I could just preempt, maybe somebody's going to ask, is there any saturation to this or oversaturation? And my answer to that is no, because when it all comes down to this, there's going to be way more realtors than senior placement people ever. And a good realtor gets the business that they hustle and they work for, right? You create your own business, you create your own market. And the same happens to apply here. If you become an expert in these things that I'm talking about and attract or be the one that people are, you're going to have your own sphere of influence. We typically are receiving somewhere around now this is Arizona, so translate this to where you live. Rents and fees in California are higher by 25% or more in other parts of the country. So it doesn't matter. But in my space, we're making around $4,000 a move in. If I move a dozen people in a month and my team does somewhere around 12 to 15 a month, our revenues are over $50,000 a month. Now I've had 3 times the size of team, and we've had more business. Some of those in the last 2 years have left me and started competitive businesses. So I've launched a number of competitors against me, but I never see them. what I do is my thing, what they do is their thing. We rarely run into each other. I'm guessing there's hundreds of placement agents in Phoenix, and I just do my thing and they do their thing. And I try to teach you guys where to create your own niche and not necessarily be around all the other in crowd, because a lot of people can be busy in this without necessarily being productive. And I want to teach you how to be productive and get the best bang for your buck.
That's what I'm connecting with. We're in the real estate business. We already know about all that stuff.
Right. And you know where you can go hang out and have cocktails and go to happy hours together, but is anybody really getting any business done? Or do you need to go find those niches, those veins that take you into that rich realm where families are? And that's what I'm talking about, is how to find those niches and veins of opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, systems in place. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Scott. My name is Richard Cairo. I'm in San Francisco.
Hi, Richard.
Thanks for all the information. I find it very helpful.
You bet.
Just a couple questions for you. So the initial $3,000, that's for like I guess 16 hours total of information and training. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then it comes with contracts and forms. And in Arizona, we have a written disclosure law, Richard, that I have to execute with every family. I provide that. You're not required for that in California. It'll happen one day that somebody's going to require written disclosure for California, just like they do in Washington and Oregon and Arizona. But Governor Newsom had some legislation last year on his desk. He chose not to sign it and he vetoed it. But there's a lot of good, hardworking people that are trying to create some targeted legislative efforts. Disclosure would be one of those things. So you'll get those documents, and maybe you want to have an attorney look them over, but they're completely executable. Use them for your own purpose.
Good. This is something I'm really going to consider, your training and joining this group. Right now, I'm actually, I guess, studying to take the CSA exam.
Okay.
So I'm doing that right now. I think I haven't even scheduled to take the test yet, but I plan to take it probably the end of December or somewhere in January. I'm also going to be out of the country in most of February. So I'll get back to you. I'll get your information, and I'll get back to you probably in late February. But thanks for your presentation. I am interested.
That's great. My youngest daughter just joined my team, Richard. She's 22 and she's finished her CSA. She now has a schedule for her test. Everything that I'm teaching is exactly what I'm teaching her to follow my lead. So, and she took this class. She took it before I let her start.
Sounds like a plan, Scott. Thanks for everything. Okay, I'll be in
You're
touch.
welcome. I look forward to it. And Julie will make sure that my contact information, if you need it, she'll get it for you. Or Julie, if you want to send it out to the masses, however you want to do it, you please feel free.
Thank you.
Yeah, all of the information will be in the bulletin. It is in the bulletin right now on the first page. And then I will be adding it again for the next bulletin. So you'll have that as a resource. And now that we have Scott, he's stuck with us. We're going to keep him forever.
Hey, if there's anything information wise, monthly, whatever, Julie, I'm right here, and I know you and I will talk more this week and next, and however I can offer to help you guys. I see a hand up. Lynn, you have your hand up.
Oh, hi, Scott. Nice to meet you. I'm
Nice to meet
Lynn, and I just literally got SRES certified a few months ago because my own parents really outgrew, or their home outgrew them. Let's just start, you start to see the deferred maintenance, my mom having problems going up the stairs, and the memory has unfortunately declined from 7 years ago. She has dementia. She was actually the one that inspired me to get into real estate. She was on my tail for 10 years. You need to get your license. And she used to do it. She property managed and she danced and gardened. She was very active, and now a completely different person, which, obviously is a sadness for any family that has, parents that have dementia or Alzheimer's. They're no longer the same person. And then we thought, okay, we need to get them into a care facility and have towards some. The main problem that I have found, and I don't think I'm isolated to this, is that the majority of the seniors, change is hard for them. They just kind of like want to stay put, and they want to, like they say, what does they say? They're gonna come out of their house feet first. And it's usually the children are the ones that are contacting us saying, my parents cannot live by themselves, please come and help us, blah, blah, blah. So it is a very sensitive family discussion, and including my own dad, who is very fiercely independent, fiercely set in his ways.
Yeah.
Even, he's changing my mom's. I mean, I hope I don't mind talking about this. My mother is incontinent and changing her diapers like 10 times a day. And my husband and I want to dearly help them, but we are just very, we have very demanding careers. We live down the street, but we can only see them once a week, to help walk her, give her a bath, have dinner together and stuff. So it's not as constant as the care she really deserves. And, my dad said, you know what? I know that it'd probably be the best for mom to go into one of these facilities, but I don't want to go in there and I don't want to see a bunch of old people. And I'm not ready to go in there. And then, so we're just like pulling out our hair. This is like major family like feud right now between my brother and sister-in-law, who are both doctors. They deal with this a lot. Me and real estate, dealing with, selling homes and this a lot. And my husband, who thinks that that would be the best thing, and now not very happy with my dad, because like, don't you trust your children? Like, your children want the best for you and you're not listening. So anyway, how do we facilitate these type of discussions? I mean, they're just,
Yeah.
so,
Well, there's the process. That's module. There's the module I was talking about. So, um, understand that a real number, here's a real statistic for you. 2/3 of the people who are caring for someone with Alzheimer's precede the person who has Alzheimer's.
oh, you
Meaning
mean
that
they pass away before.
his health is impacted exponentially by the stress and strain of what he's doing.
Oh.
If he has any health issues or concerns, he's diabetic, he's hypertensive, he's got any of the issues, he has to understand that I hear you loud and clear, Dad, but you've got to understand this is a real national statistic. You look it up. I think it's the Alzheimer's Association. Over 65% of those people die before the person has the disease. Because here's the other point. When parents love each other and they've been together for like your mom and dad, he's kind of resigned himself like, well, life without her would be horrible, so I might as well be dead too. So I don't want to live without her, even if it's miserable. And so he loses the value of his own existence as a byproduct of just succumbing to her disease. And we had a local mayor here of the city of Tempe, where Arizona State University is in Tempe, Arizona. And this guy was the mayor of Tempe, and then he became a U.S. congressman. And I got to know Congressman Mitchell a few years ago and had him speak at one of our conferences, because he was a guy that was very much that way. And his wife in her 70s was diagnosed. And Harry thought, screw it, I'll just rot and go with her. And then I think his kids finally got the message through that he had too much still to live for, and that the most loving thing he could do was love her to a point. And then the next most loving thing was to get all the right help and get her in the right place. And then he created a new life where he circled over and saw Margaret, whatever, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. He had a new routine and a new rhythm that he developed. And he started reaching out and speaking and touching other families who were feeling it. I stood there and cried. about a lot of stuff. So sorry, I get gushy. But to see a man who has served his country, served his state as a representative, and say that, but my marriage was very hard to believe there was another side of this that I could live without her in my daily. But he said, no, 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 no. I had to understand that I'm still married to her and I have great responsibility for her, but I need help because my own health was was being decimated by it. It's a hard one.
So,
It's a hard one.
yeah, thank you so much, Scott. I mean, that is, hearing these type of stories, it gives us hope, right? And what was the name of, sorry, the person?
His name was Harry Mitchell, Representative Harry Mitchell. Lynn, I'll tell you another quick story for all you guys. And I'm running long here, so if you guys need to jump. But I'm talking to a Phoenix fireman a couple weeks ago. Firemen are wired to rescue, save, come through in the clutch, right? So his mom's got Alzheimer's. So what's his perspective? I'll just outmuscle Alzheimer's disease and my mom won't get sick. I'll fix it. I'll build her a house in my backyard. I'll do this. I'll do that. She literally almost lit his own house. Like the worst case scenario is for a fireman to lose his house to a house fire. His mom lit the house on fire. His wife was ready to leave him. His kids are losing their mind because he brought a demented woman into their family system. And I looked at him straight in the eye, Lynn, and I said, hey, Alzheimer's is undefeated. You can't win. He just lost it. Because as a man, he wanted to come through for his mom. And so it's with that kind of precision that I try to help you guys that are getting into the space, whether you're doing it personally for a family member or you're doing it professionally. Here's some tender and sensitive spots for people, and here's how you can help them cross that bridge, and get them to the point where they are doing the right thing, rather than me just telling them, you got to do the right thing, you got to do the right thing. Well, we got to help them overcome whatever fear, barrier, anxiety that they're feeling so that they get to the conclusion of what they know is best for them. And that's the process. So you guys have gotten 2 stories that I shared with Lisa the other day, but those are in those stories. And I try to involve stories to teach in this program so that you understand this. I'm still doing this tomorrow. I mean, I still carry a caseload of families. So this isn't theory to me. This is the stuff I do.
Scott, this is Valerie again from San Jose. Thank you for sharing those. I really do think, as you just said, stories are really effective and helpful for people. Particularly, I think what motivates many of us is that our lives have already been touched by these scenarios.
Yeah.
And we have a grasp of how it's affecting people's lives, and that's why we're motivated to help.
Yeah.
People that haven't yet had an experience with someone who has Alzheimer's, they don't have the capacity yet to comprehend how much it impacts someone's life. And also, I can just say, someone that I was helping with that, the first time I started getting cans of tuna fish thrown at me violently, because, the person was in a state where they couldn't understand what was happening. They were scared and they didn't remember who I was anymore, right? And when you start to see how a caregiver can actually be worn out and in danger, that's when it starts to become real for you about what do you need to do to help that person.
Yeah.
Scott, I think there's quite a few of us, to be honest with you, in this group that we're meeting every week that probably would be very interested in taking the training.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
what can we do to be most helpful in terms of, should we amongst ourselves kind of meet offline, get a grasp of our schedules and what might be, a good fit for our group, and then get back on that? Would that be?
If there's, let's say there's a cluster of you want to pull this together, but you want to schedule, that's the most cost-effective way to go about doing it. We can get it scheduled. My December schedule's got a few things on it, not much, and so it's easy to get into January and even into next year, right? I haven't scheduled way out on things. Um, I need to take a couple days off for New Year's and a couple days off for my birthday. But that's about it. I mean, I'm here working, so you get some ideas, and if people want to contact me and further questions individually, please reach out to me, email, call me. We'll talk about it. And would love to be of service. Absolutely.
All right, so we'll all talk on our side just to try to, be more efficient, and not having to have everybody, reach out to you. We'll see how many people are interested and what's a good time frame, and then we'll get back with you and see how that works with your schedule.
Awesome.
Okay.
I appreciate it, you guys. This has been a lot of fun for me, and I love to share and tell stories and let people take a look inside our world. So thank you for the opportunity.
I think, Scott, there's so many of us that have been actually looking for this, and that's why we've been meeting for the last year and a half. This is exactly what many of us need,
Awesome.
and couldn't quite even maybe articulate exactly what we were looking for. And
Yeah.
so I really truly appreciate everything that you've shared today, and I think we'll definitely be in touch soon and look forward to working with you.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Does anybody have any more, any questions, any comments?
I do, and I'm so sorry if I've been in and out of calls. So the course that you're offering is for to be certified as CSA, or is it just kind of like more an advancement of our series license?
Yeah, it's a separate thing. So it will support you having a separate business now, referral and placement. But you carry your SRES. If you're sitting in for the CSA, that's a separate certification. This is not a certified program. I've not gone through the steps to have it certified. It's a preparation and education program to help you launch a new business. But you get to continue to promote that SRES and that CSA. That's what makes you attractive, is those certifications.
That's what makes us special.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Oh, I see. Okay, so
Okay.
it's an enhancement of our S series.
That's right.
Okay, I was right. Okay.
Yeah, and another opportunity for us to create another revenue resource in our seniors real estate specialist realtor business.
Okay, so the people that are looking for specifically agents that have this certification, I mean, how do you guys go through that avenue? I mean, sorry to ask such basic questions, but.
Scott, do you mind if I address that one really quick?
Yeah, no, jump in. That's great.
I just wanted to jump in. So I have my real estate business and my real estate hat, and I have a separate business entity that handles my placement and my aging in place business. So it's two different hats, so that my senior placement is my senior placement. It has absolutely nothing to do with my real estate business, and I don't have to talk to my broker about it. It's like having a donut store and having a real estate business. It's two separate items that, a donut store and a real estate may or may not coexist. But the nice thing is, again, if you have a placement option and opportunity, there are other avenues and other things that I can do, whether it eventually leads to a real estate transaction or is just the placement. There are other options to help them that are outside of real estate that, like I said, don't fall under the purview of your managing broker.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you juggle two of these businesses, but sometimes they overlap.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're like referrals. Yeah, referral back and forth.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lisa. Appreciate it.
That's perfect. Thanks, Lisa.
He's got a meeting.
All right, this has been amazing. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Scott, we went way off, and I know
Oh,
you
that's
have a
all
meeting
good.
you gotta run to, so.
No,
thanks for your
I've
time.
got a 2:00 with my insurance guy, and he and I and Jason, the CRM guy, are packaging our offerings to make it even more attractive. And this is one of the conversations he and I are talking. So as you guys choose to go down this road, you'll meet Jeff and Amanda and his team. They're amazing. Customer service is fantastic. And then you have this part of this business entity properly protected in the space that you need it. So I got to run to Julie again. Thank you to all of you for having me today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank
Talk to
you,
you soon.
everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
A good
Happy
one.
Bye.
holidays. Have a good Thanksgiving.
I'll
Bye-bye.
have everything in the bulletin. You know me.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. We'll see you
Bye,
Thank you,
next
ladies.
week. Bye-bye.